All right. Boker Tov again. Welcome, everybody. This is class 110 of our ongoing series. Now, after 2 weeks of Hanukkah, we'll get back to the Siddur, but I see already a few questions. Asar B'Tevet, we'll talk briefly on Asar B'Tevet, which we did. I checked my notes. We spoke a few things last year, some reviews, maybe a touch review and a couple other things. It is unusual. This we, of course, did not talk about last year. Asar B'Tevet is on a Friday, as it will be again next year, apparently. And of course, the Sarva Teva will not happen again till 2025. That's one of these, cute, and you play all these, trivia games. So, because depending on the count, like Parshat Vayigash probably won't be read in 2024 either. Like, you'll read it twice in 2025, depending on the calendar. So there's no Sarva Teva in 2024. Not that anybody cares about that. But anyway, so first of all, why can you have a fast on Friday? Why can't you? Okay, so let's see why you can't have a fast on Friday. Let's it's not exactly, but let me just show one thing. Okay, quickly already. There we go. Does everybody see this? Okay. Ein gozrim ta'anit al tzibur b'Rosh Chodesh. So Masechet Ta'anit, which is one of the tractates in the Talmud, 30 pages. About one of them talk about Tisha B'Av and Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, maybe one and a half of them. Very little, very little. The vast majority of the tractate, the first half is about when it doesn't rain, what we're talking about in the Shema. And it actually ties in very well with the second paragraph of the Shema, when it doesn't rain. So they used to have a series of fast days. It wasn't like today. They had water desalination plants, and you don't have to worry so much. But there was a real problem. People, died. It didn't rain. So they would have a series 3 fasts, another 3 fasts. The first day fast only in the daytime, then from the night before, then they put more restrictions, 7 fasts, and only the rabbis would fast. So the Mishnah is saying you shouldn't make one of these fast days on Rosh Chodesh, Hanukkah, or Purim, because you're not allowed to fast on Rosh Chodesh, Hanukkah, and Purim. Now, these fast days were done Mondays and Thursdays. They would go like in succession, Monday, Thursday, Monday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, then Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, Monday, or Thursday, whatever, 7. But if there's a series, they're going to do 3 or 7 fasts, Monday, Thursday. And it so happens the 4th Monday is Hanukkah. Okay, it's not that they made the fast for Hanukkah. Hanukkah is in the middle of the series of fasting. So the Mishnah says you overrule Hanukkah and you fast, even though it's Hanukkah or Rosh Chodesh or Purim. Divrei Rabban Gamliel. That's the words Rabban Gamliel. I'm a Rav Meir who's later than Rabban Gamliel. Not that it really matters, but I always like to point out these historical things. Rav Meir is a later Tana from the second last generation of Tanaim. Depends. There's 2 Rabban Gamliels, but we assume this is Rabban Gamliel of Yavna, the famous Rabban Gamliel with Rabbi Yeshua, as opposed to Rabban Gamliel Hazakein. They were the grandsons. Then the Nesi'im. There were 6 Nesi'im, basically, from Hillel to Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. They were all children of each other. Like Hillel's great-great-great-great-grandson is Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. But his son or grandson is Rabban Gamliel, and his son is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and his son is Rabban Gamliel, and his son is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and his son is Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi. But so normally the way we distinguish the 2 Rabban Gamliels, the first one, who would live while the temple is still standing, is Rabban Gamliel Hazakein, the elder, and this is the regular one, Rabban Gamliel of Yavna. This is the one when they got Yavna started. He was the very strong leader. Anyways, Rabbi Meir is already after the Bar Kochva revolt. They're no longer in Yavna. They're up north. Rabbi Meir says, it's true. Rabban Gamliel says we're not going to cancel the fast. You have to fast on Hanukkah. Modeh but you didn't fast the whole day. You had to end the fast. Hanukkah now gets dark. The fast should end at 5 o'clock. I don't know. He doesn't say exactly what time. At 4 o'clock, you end the fast. You can't fast the whole day because you have to acknowledge it's Hanukkah. So it's like kind of a compromise. We fast, but it's also Hanukkah. V'chein Tisha B'Av shechal liot Erev Shabbat. So this is an amazing Mishnah. When Tisha B'Av falls on a Friday, of course, when's the last time Tisha B'Av fell on a Friday? Somebody, Tova, when's the last time Tisha B'Av fell on?
I don't think it falls on Erev Shabbos.
Doesn't.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't.
I don't know, 2,000 years ago, maybe never. It must have happened. It obviously happened at some point in history. Otherwise, the Mishnah wouldn't mention it.
Once our calendar
So at sometime between the year 70 and 359, presumably Tisha B'Av fell on a Sunday. Also, perhaps between the year 586 BCE and 516 BCE, during the 70 years of exile, presumably Tisha B'Av fell on a Sunday once in a while. During the Second Temple period, there's a whole debate whether the Jewish people fasted. The 4 fast days, which Asar B'Tevet is one of them, the first one, sort of the 4 fast days of the destruction of the temple. Did they fast during the Second Temple? There seems to be a little bit of debate about that. I think the consensus, if I'm not mistaken, is they did not fast. Although we do know that the elders, when they built the Second Temple, they were crying, because the Second Temple was a pale comparison to the first. To the young people, it was exciting, amazing. Wow, we have Beit HaMikdash is great. But the older people who remembered, the old home, whatever, they were very upset. Anyways, but I assume Tisha B'Av at some point in history did fall on a Friday. The way our calendar is set up, it never falls on a Friday. So the Mishnah says, when Tisha B'Av fell on a Friday, Tisha B'Av, Asar B'Tevet is a fast and rain. Knew one thing. I don't know. Maybe fasting for rain is more important than Tisha B'Av. I'm not sure. We don't think that way, but I think it meant more to people. Fasting for rain was your livelihood now. Tisha B'Av, like ancient history. But anyways, the Mishnah says we did not complete the fast. We would break the fast be on Friday early. We don't, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, they don't paskin like Rav Meir. We paskin like Rav Gamliel, you fast. But still, I think it's important. So now you come to a Asar B'Tevet. So Asar B'Tevet doesn't compare it to Tisha B'Av. It's a much lower holiday, just so people should. And obviously, we know it's a much sadder day and it's much worse and terrible things happen. Then obviously, halachically, and the stringencies are more. It's like Yom Kippur, you can't wear shoes and you can't take a shower, etc. And also, of course, we fast for the full day, 25 hours. Sarbat Tevet, Shiva Sarbat, even Shiva Sarbat Tammuz, and some Gedalia, we somehow view Shiva Sarbat Tammuz, I think, is more serious. Most people, I think it's more serious than a Sarbat Tevet, but on a halachic status, it is the same. Shiva Sarbat Tammuz and Asar B'Tevet, and they are what we call is just really a minhag. It's I don't say just a minhag, but it is just a minhag. Fasting on Yom Kippur is a biblical law, of course. Fasting on Tisha B'Av is a rabbinic law. So we follow rabbinic laws almost as strictly as biblical laws, but it's important to know there are exceptions. Yom Tisha B'Av is not Yom Kippur; it's close, but it's not quite the same thing. Rabbinic law, eating chicken and meat, we treat it the same as meat and milk, right? Chicken milk, but chicken milk is only rabbinic prohibition. But still, we treat rabbinic prohibitions normally pretty much on par with biblical, unless there's some extenuating circumstance. So Tisha B'Av is a rabbinic fast. But the other fast days, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, it depends on what's going on in Jewish history. And if it's a time of terror in the Holocaust, maybe it was you had a fast like on Tisha B'Av. With their real persecution of the Jews, you have to fast for 25 hours, etc. And if things are really good, you don't have to fast at all, because the prophet Zechariah, the famous prophecy, the fast of the 4th, 5th, 7th, and 10th, those are Shiva Sarbat Tammuz is the 4th month, Tisha B'Av is the 5th month, Tzom Gedalia is the 7th month, and Asar B'Tevet is the 10th month, counting from Nisan. So those fast days will be holidays. So when the Jewish people, things are great, we're back in Israel, you don't have to fast, and that's why there was a real legitimate shaila in 1948 and for sure in 1967 whether people had to fast on Tisha B'Av anymore. Today, nobody thinks like that. Things are not. We're not in the 67. Obviously, since October 7th, for sure not. But we're not in the 1967 glow. I think I mentioned in the past Rabbi Lookstein in his the Koren keynote that they published, with the explanation. So it has an introduction with Rabbi Lookstein, and Rabbi Lookstein mentions, Haskell Lookstein is Baruch Hashem. I think he's well over 90. Rabbi Emeritus at KJ. So Rabbi Lookstein writes that he came to Israel in 1967, just after the Six-Day War. He landed on Erev Tisha B'Av, and he went to daven in Rav Goren's shul. Rav Goren at that point, Rav Shlomo Goren was chief rabbi of the army before he became chief rabbi of Israel. And he says they started to say Eicha, and I don't know if it was the middle of Eicha. Maybe they said Eicha. Maybe in the first keynote maybe I don't remember now. But in the middle of the lamentations, the lamenting we do on Tisha B'Av, they closed the keynote and they went home. And we're not saying keynote now. It's 1967. The Geula's coming. Israel. All the. I don't remember. I'm too young to remember the aftermath of the war. But those are older than me can recall. And the amazing stuff that went on there. We don't have Tisha B'Av. And then he explains why Rav Soloveitchik, didn't go for any of that stuff. And the next year, and he gave the whole shiur why Rav Soloveitchik, who in general was small c conservative. So, Rav Goren was a little bit more daring in his halachic interpretations. Let's say that. But whatever the case may be, when there's Geula, we're not going to fast. So that's the question. It was 1948, 1967. Was that the Geula? So it's assumed not, as we understand why. But it's not. But it's still pretty amazing. It's way better than it was in 1492 or 1933. So therefore, these 4 fast days are considered to be a minhag, considered to be just a custom. As a custom, we don't have to be so strict. So we start fasting only in the morning. We don't fast from the night before. And customs, if you have a bad headache, you can break your fast. We're much more lenient. So then the question becomes, this year, when should the fast end? So I tried to convince, our shul to daven a little earlier than they did, of course, unsuccessfully, because, that's just the way places operate. I would recommend I saw Dov Linzer wrote a whole response about this, that I would recommend shuls end davening, not end davening by Shkia, by sunset. According to some opinions, every fast day ends at Shkia. I don't know if Yom Kippur does. That not. But the other fast days end at sunset. We know we have this period between sunset and what we call Shkia and Seit HaKochavim, and the nightfall, or the appearance of the stars, right? So that's twilight, what we call in English, I think, twilight. So generally it's assumed we don't know, is twilight day or night. So we're very strict. So Friday, we bring in Shabbos before sunset, because when the sun's down, maybe it's already Shabbos. And Saturday night, we don't end Shabbos till the stars come up, because maybe there's still a little light. Maybe it's still Shabbos. So we're strict on both ends, because we're not sure if it's day or night. And since we're talking about a biblical law, when you're in doubt with the biblical law of Shabbat, you have to be strict. So we keep Shabbos for more or less, it really has to do with longitude and latitude where you live. And in Israel, the period is much less. It's closer to the equator. It gets dark more quickly. But be that as it may, here in North America, I don't know, when I was a kid, they assumed it was 42 minutes. Now everybody moved to the right, so they assume it's 45 or 46 minutes after their sunset. So whatever, we have 25 hours of Shabbos. Rabbi Soloveitchik, of course, more beautifully explained, it's not that we're in doubt whether it's day or night. It's the period of twilight is day and night. It's both. It's not where it's a period that has properties of the daytime, because there's still light. It's not dark totally. And it's about periods of night, because there's no sun. So it's both. So it's elements of night and day. So the question is, when there's a fast day, the Talmud says these other fast days, you have to wait till Shkia, till sunset, which sounds like it's sunset. The same, by the way, we have the same question on Hanukkah candles. Do you light Hanukkah candles at sunset or when it gets dark? So I don't know how many people here, most people today, like when they get home from work, whatever. But in theory, on Sunday, when do people light? At sunset, also they light late, but at sunset or dark? Was anybody even aware of the question? That there is, so when do you light?
When your wife gets home.
No, Rabbi Kerbel said you should light between Shkia and Seit HaKochavim.
Between what's
that between? 4:50. That was his.
I don't know what between means. Either you light at sunset, I guess at sunset, but it's the exact same question. So it's the same question. So by the fast day, so I saw Rabbi Linzer, I think, quoted the Ramban. It was of the opinion that all fast days and all rabbinic fast days and at Shkia, at sunset. That's not the generally accepted opinion we hold by. We hold they end at Seit HaKochavim. But there's another big question, when it's Seit HaKochavim. The Vilna Gaon assumed, question, what are you talking about? The Vilna Gaon assumed Seit HaKochavim is 3/4 of a mil. after sunset. Well, it's a very complicated area because it's not so complicated in theory, just in practice. What do you do and how does it all work out? And the Gemara seems to contradict itself. The Gemara in Shabbos when Psachim anyway. So a mil is 2,000 amot. An amma is between the elbow and the middle finger. That's great. Okay, very nice. And of course, because in ancient world they didn't have technology, wasn't like it is today, so nobody cared. How much matzah do you have to eat?
Kazayas.
How much?
A kazayas.
What's a kazayit?
An olive.
Oh, it's not an olive. What's a kazayit?
The volume of an olive.
Oh, the volume of like an olive.
Like an olive. Yeah.
Like an olive.
Right.
Like an olive. It's around, looks like an olive. It's big enough. Smaller, bigger. You didn't measure. Nobody measured like today. Kazayit, like a kazayit. Nobody. So, and how big is it? This olive is bigger. This olive is smaller. My hand is bigger. It's not like NFL football. It's third down and 16 inches to go, and then the guy gets sacked, and they bring up there, and you win the game on the markers go by 1 inch. The football they bring up. So they didn't live like that. So things were very different. So when it got dark, when it looked like it got dark, it's when it's around the size of an olive. Today we live. I remember Rosh Hashanah telling us because everything is so exact. I mean, the whole world, 1 centimeter off, you can be in big trouble. If it's something, if the plane has something, it can be 1 centimeter, it can be a disaster. So we're so exacting in general technology, so we should be more exacting in halakhic technology. We didn't used to be. So, but that's the question. So a mil. So it's assumed somewhere between 18 and 24 inches is an amma, and to walk 2,000, it's approximately a kilometer, depending, whatever. But the general consensus, that's how long, that's how fast you have to make the matzah. These things all tie in together. You have to make the matzah in the flour turns into chametz in the amount of time it takes to walk a mil. So we're strict. We say mil's 18 minutes. But maybe it's only 24 minutes, 22 minutes, how long it takes the average person to walk. So these are very hard to translate into regular time. But be that as the Vilna Gaon was between 3/4 of a mil, assuming a mil is 18 minutes. So 13 and a half minutes after sunset, it's dark. And the Vilna Gaon, I would believe Shabbos would end then. That's Seit HaKol Chavim. And Shabbos is over then. So nobody follows that exactly. But nobody, not nobody, but most people don't follow Rabbeinu Tam either. Rabbeinu Tam has a whole different view. That's the famous Rabbeinu Tam that ends 4 mil. It doesn't get dark till 3 1/4 mil, like 58 minutes after Shkia. That's like 72. What they do 72 minutes after sunset. They do right after 4 mil. I have to remember all the details, but of course it's not that Rabbeinu Tam is strict. Rabbeinu Tam holds that Shabbos on Friday begins an hour later. It's not like he's strict. He just has the day starting much later and ending much later. So people, I do understand that certain people I was told there are Hasidic groups because that follow Rabbeinu Tam even on Friday, which means it's pitch black out, but Rabbeinu Tam holds it's not Shabbos, and of course, but most people, the whole Rabbeinu Tam, they only hold it on Saturday night to be extra strict. And the Vilna Gaon's comment on the Rabbeinu Tam was hachush machish. In other words, Rabbeinu Tam said, let's say 58 minutes till about 58 minutes after sunset, it's for sure daytime, and from 58 to 72 minutes, or 58 and a half minutes to 72 minutes, that extra 3/4 of a mil, that the Vilna Gaon says, after sunset, 3/4 of a mil is 13 and a half minutes, it's night. So the Rabbeinu Tam says that 3/4 mil only starts after 3 1/4 mil, like after 58 minutes. So the first 58 minutes after sunset, it's daytime. And the last 13 and a half minutes, we're not sure. It's Bein Hashmashot. That's this twilight zone. And the Vilna Gaon said, what are you talking about? Walk outside. You're out of your mind. I mean, you walk outside 55 minutes after sunset in Toronto and New York, it's pitch black. And you're going to tell me you can drive your car because it's still day? That's what the plain meaning of Rabbeinu Tam is. So even though throughout history, Rabbeinu Tam was the accepted view, That's the main view. It's amazing. It's the Vilna Gaon who really changed. And the main view today, nobody holds the. I mean, nobody. That's an interesting question. If your plane lands late, I'm not answering the question, but I'm throwing it out there. If your plane lands late on a Friday, and your plane lands, it touches down 10 minutes or 5 minutes before sunset, and you get, or even 5 minutes after sunset, can you get, that's maybe a slightly different question. Can you get in the cab, and the cab will be driving home for half an hour? According to Rabbeinu Tam, you're home before Shabbos. So can you rely on Rabbeinu Tam? I can't answer that question, but that is an interest. I mean, Rabbeinu Tam is Rabbeinu Tam. He's not like a nobody. But anyways, these are fascinating questions. I didn't want to spend so much time on this, but so that's the question. When should the fast end today? So I think you can, that's what Rabbi Linzer wrote, but Rav Schachter was always lenient on these fast days. When I was in yeshiva, the Kollel at YU, we would end Som Gedalia 20 minutes after sunset, not like here, they ended 45 minutes after. We would end not like Shabbos. That's what they call, I don't know if they still do that, but that was the early, they Daven Mark, like 10, 15 minutes after Shkia. And this is Rav Hershel Schachter, because he knows, everybody knows that. The more you know, the more lenient you can be. So, so all the shuls, they put Som Gedalia, and when do they have Tova at the bait? When's Som Gedalia? 5:25, because that's when Shabbos ends.
You mean Asar TV?
Yeah, I mean Asar Table.
5:19.
5:19.
5:19.
Yeah, so they're like 2 minutes lenient. Okay, so I don't know. I think it can. Ski in Toronto today, I think, is at 4:44, something like that. So I think for sure by 5 o'clock, you can rely on the Vilna Gaon 13 and a half minutes later after. But whatever it is, okay, that's it. But the custom is we do fast on Friday. And anyways, okay, we should get back to Shema. We spoke last year about I do want to mention it because I always think it's so important to mention on a Sarbatay. But listen, it's hard for us to and the truth matter, I know that many people who it's very interesting. Mark Shapiro was the first one who really brought this to my attention, because I guess I grew up in I live in a bubble, and sort of a bubble, right? That there are many observant Jews who don't fast on Sarbat Tevet, Shiva Sarbat Tammuz. Many people, especially women. And especially in the Hasidic world, he says no woman fast on these fast days. It's unheard of that a woman would fast on. And then when I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean they don't fast? Like, it's in the Shulchan Aruch. What do you mean don't fast? Well, religious Jew fast. But it's really amazing. And then Mark says, and I know we've had it on our trips, some of our trips, we've flown last year to Sarbat Tevet, and I'm actually blown away. I don't mean to criticize anybody. I'm just saying people, even men with like payas and stuff. I mean, we eat on these fast days sometimes. Listen, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik wanted to do away with these fast days, because as we know, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik was very strict on Pikuach Nefesh, and he felt that we are all weak today, Nikatnu Hadorot. It's probably the opposite. We're probably physically stronger, but we won't go there. So Rav Chaim wanted to do away with all this fasting. So I understand in Brisk, the women are not allowed to fast in the Brisk community. I don't know if the men fast. Maybe the men don't fast. Tisha B'Av is different because it's Ramigla, but these minor, that's always referred to minor fast days, So the minor fast days, they don't fast. That's an interesting, I don't know. I was brought up in the more, you fast. There's 6 fast days, and a Jew fasts on all the fast days. No, I don't, but okay, whatever.
Why isn't the fast day advanced though?
Because it's only because you're allowed to fast. I mean, you're not normally supposed to go and fast so much on Friday, right? Normally, but okay, this is an exception. If the Mishnah says even Chanukah Purim, if it comes up, listen. There are only so many manipulations we can make in the calendar. We had to make our calendar so Yom Kippur can't be on a Friday or a Sunday. I mean, the big things the calendar did. We don't want Yom Kippur on a Friday or a Sunday, because we don't want 2 days in a row like that. We won't get into that. And we don't want Hoshana Rabbah on Shabbos. That was like, whoa, who cares? But no, because there was big fights about Hoshana Rabbah. The Sadducees didn't accept Hoshana Rabbah, so the rabbis wanted to make a big deal to make sure we'd never skip Hoshana Rabbah. Shofar, no, we skipped it this year. That's okay. Rosh Hashanah can fall on Shabbos. I was talking to my nephew, Josh, the other day, and I don't know the answer to this question. Maybe other people must. I'm sure some people. I don't know. Was there ever a time period in Jewish history where they didn't blow shofar on Shabbos and Rosh Hashanah was only one day. In other words, what came first? The extension of Rosh Hashanah to 2 days, or the not allowing shofar blown on Shabbos? Because if this 2 days came first, so it's not such a big deal. So you blow it. I know it's only rabbinic, and we're getting rid of a biblical mitzvah, but still, at least you hear shofar that year. To go a whole year without hearing shofar, Hoshana, that would be that would not be good. But Hoshana Rabbah you can't make out. But anyway, so they have to manipulate the calendar to do that. So that's why Rosh Chodesh is not always on Rosh Chodesh. In other words, Rosh Chodesh is not always on the astronomical new moon because we got to play around with dates. I guess Sarbateva falling on a Friday. There's the famous cup of the Abud Raham. I think a lot of people have heard this comment, although most halachic authorities reject this comment, and that is that if a Sarbateva would fall on Shabbos, which in our calendar it never does, you would fast, because Yechezkel said be'etzem, Hayom Hazeh, just like on Yom Kippur, be'etzem Hayom Hazeh, we fast. But so the Abud Raham, who's one of the early commentaries on the Siddur, who we've often quoted, says that you fast on a Sarbatevet if we were to fall on Shabbos. But I think most people disagree. It hasn't happened. So, the question's sort of a moot question at this point. But anyways, so that's why. Listen, according to Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah, you would end the fast at 3 o'clock today. You end the Tisha B'Av early. Kal V'chomer, you're going to end the Sarbatevet. So I'm saying, but even according to the accepted view that we don't end early, but we don't have to be strict when Seid HaKochavim on a minhag. This is a minhag. To wait till, and it's not right. It's on Shabbos. It does take away. There is concern. So it's not, I don't think you're not machmir if you end the fast at 5:20. You're mekil. Like many stringencies is a stringency in area A, but it's a leniency in area B, right? That's what people don't understand. I'm very strict about certain things. I mean, you're very lenient about other things, right? Like so if you're very strict when a Sarbatevet ends, that means you're very lenient on honoring of Shabbat, because you're not supposed to be hungry when you have honoring Shabbat. So I personally think I don't want to say anything. I don't know, but I say it anyways. I think shul should be ending half an hour earlier than most are going to end. It dawned upon, I'm not going to do this, but it crossed my mind. Maybe I should organize my own minyan to end half an hour earlier. But I think breakaway minyanim is a worse problem than splitting the community. Not that it splits the community, but whatever. So I don't know, Tova, all the Thornhill minyanim that they have in people's homes, very common in Thornhill, I think, right? Still, people home, whatever. So I don't know if any of them, I won't mention the name. People in Toronto will probably know there is somebody who lives in our area who has a minyan in his house every Friday night and Saturday night. And I told him this. I called him yesterday just to let him know. He thanked me very much, and he pushed up his minyan 15 minutes to make it a little bit earlier. But anyway,
my question though was that for Tanit Esther, we advance the fast. We don't change the calendar. We just advance the fast to the day
because
before.
Tanit Esther
We could advance the fast
on a Friday. No. When Tanit Esther falls on Shabbos, right? When Purim is on. So once we're moving a fast, when
right.
Purim is Saturday night, if we're moving the fast already, we move it to a Thursday. Correct, because we don't like fasting on Friday. But if it would be that's only because we're already moving it. It's already not really. I mean, the whole Tanit Esther is all made up. When did Esther fast?
Right.
On
When did
Pesach.
Esther fast? On Pesach.
She fasted, right, and it was a
That's
3-day
Pesach.
fast.
Yeah, it was on. That was that's people don't realize that. I mean, there's a lot of connections between Purim and Pesach. Esther fasted on Pesach. Tanit Esther is the lowest fast. It's I don't even know if it reaches that. I guess it is a minhag, but it's the lowest status fast, and we're the most lenient in when you can break the fast. And so it's symbolic. The whole fast is symbolic before Purim. So yeah, if we're moving it, we're going to move it to Thursday. But if the day falls on Friday, I imagine the Mishnah says, if our calendar worked in a way that Tisha B'Av could fall on Friday, Tisha B'Av would fall on Friday. Just we don't have it. Listen, I mentioned 2 years ago when I gave my shir on Tisha B'Av, if anybody was there or remembers, that I didn't quote the Mishnah. They have to look it up. The Mishnah says you're not allowed to fast on Sunday, because you're not allowed to go from simcha and tanug to tsar. You're not the transition from partying like a king. And the Mishnah even says when we do fast on Sunday, your shalashudas can be Shlomo HaMelech, the Suda of Shlomo HaMelech. It's Shabbos. I don't care that it's Erev Tisha B'Av. You can eat like Shlomo HaMelech ate. But the Mishnah was opposed to fasting on Sunday. So I don't quite know. I spoke about this two years ago. I don't remember everything I said. I have to look at my notes. But the Mishnah says you're not supposed to fast on Sunday. We know half the years, because when Tisha B'Av's on Shabbos or Sunday, we fast on Sunday. But whatever, we can't do everything in the calendar. So it would probably be better if Tisha B'Av would be on a Monday, but it never is on a Monday.
Rabbi,
Will be on a Monday.
Rabbi, I just want to tell you that I was reading up above this last night because I can't go to shul, so Dublin is home. So I don't know. I can't even remember whose website it was, but somebody said exactly like you were saying.
So I'm not the only one who says this. Good. I'm happy to hear that.
And in fact, there was some. I'm sorry I forgot, but they even said something like you should treat it like it was an early Friday in the summer.
Like a Friday in the summer, early Friday. Yeah. Okay. Can you make early Shabbos? So that's another question.
Yeah.
Can you bring? That's not
that
a crazy question.
Sort of the precedent.
I just don't know who's going to go to a 2:30 minyan for mincha. Like early Shabbos, and now early, like by plug a mincha. I don't know when plug them. If you want to be strict, which you should be, which you want to make mincha before plug and Mari to bring in Shabbos early. So no, already Shabbos is early. Shul's at 4:15. How early can it be? But you are correct. There are some people who say if you bring in Shabbos early, then I don't think that's in sort of the accepted view. But you bring in Shabbos early. You finish at 3:30 in the winter. Why not? And now early, bring it in early so you can eat. Make Kiddush at 3:30. Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I'll say something. It's a little bit. Don't quote me on this, of course. Otherwise, so why am I saying it? But okay, don't quote me. There is a difference between Halachic Judaism and Orthodox Judaism. Let's just put it that way. Or in other words, a lot of things that are done in Orthodoxy is a social movement. It's not a halachic movement. That requires much more. Now it says, of course, it's connected to. I'm not like it's anti-halacha, God forbid. But Orthodoxy is not a. It developed as a social movement, as a response to reform. It's not and many things that are done in Orthodoxy were done because of the, Chadash Yasser Min HaTorah of the Chatam Sofer. That's like against the Torah. What do you mean Chadash Yasser Min HaTorah? We always have innovation. When we're talking about Chadash, new things are forbidden. That's ridiculous. Of course not. But in the battle with reform, there are all kinds of things. People don't know, and when you're dealing with people who are not so learned, the more learned you are, the more lenient you can be. That's everybody knows that. So most people not so learned. So shuls are very fit. They're going to start doing weird things, and that is true in halacha. Halacha is concerned when you do things that are allowed. The Gemara often says that it's really allowed. Halacha ve'ein morin kain. This is the law, but you can't say that in public because people don't understand. They get all confused. But people in the know. No, so it would look really strange if we brought in like an early. People would go crazy and they say you're not religious, and maybe it would have negative side effects. Maybe it would impact things negatively. So maybe there is good reason for it. But you have to realize that not everything done in quote unquote in the Orthodox world means it has to be done al pi halakha. And if you're looking al pi halakha, so we have a very learned group here. So we say exactly as it is. Okay, this is not a halakha. This is not a halakha class. It's not halakha lemaisa. I'm just a practical law. I'm just telling you ideas and views. And I told you right away, we don't accept it. Rabbi Meir's view was not accepted by the Shulchan Aruch, that we don't fast all day Tisha B'Av. But I think it's fascinating to know about the view. And when does it come into play? It's one thing to say we don't do that on Tisha B'Av, but a Sar B'Tevet, and then when does it get dark? Anyways, I said this, it's good. I only realized it's after I named this class Mitzvot in Exile, because I wanted to get back to Shema. I figured, but actually that's good for a Sar B'Tevet also, because a Sar B'Tevet is the beginning of the exile. I was planning to talk about Hishamru Lachem Pen Yitel Vavchem V'Sartem Ba'otem. We'll see how much we get there in the Shema. But the other thing I very briefly wanted to mention, because I do think it's always important on a Sar B'Tevet, is I'm sure some people know that a Sar B'Tevet was originally part of a 3-day fast. We used to fast the 8th and the 9th and the 10th. And those who were paying attention, those who said slicha this morning, that's A, those who said it, that's gets rid of half the people. And then gets rid of the other 80%, those who understood what they said in Slichot this morning. We should do for Slichot like we do on Kinot, but see, that would be unorthodox, right? 50 years ago, today, every single, 90, I think, every shul I know of in the Orthodox world today doesn't say all of the Kinot. They take 10 Kinot and they explain them for 20 minutes. 40 years ago, Zev Kaufman probably remembers an incident that happened in Toronto in 1996 on Tish B'Av in a shul that they did explanation, and there was an outburst because what do you mean? The Kinot in Europe, everybody just mumbled the Kinot. Who cares if you understood it? That's the way it was always done. And somehow this changed because Rabbi Soloveitchik was the first to initiate this change in Boston, but he would just sit all day and explain Kinot. Now everybody knows it's meaningless to mumble Kinot you don't understand. It's much more meaningful, and you can go for 3 hours, 10 Kinot. You could do 1 Kinot in 3 hours. Okay, that's too much for people. So they do 10 Kinot for 3 hours. Beautiful. So they skip 35 Kinot. Who cares? It's much more meaningful. The problem is we don't do that at Slichos. We have to do the same thing at Slichot. Say 1 Slicha at night or in the morning, whenever you say Slichot. That's the other thing Orthodoxy changed. See, here's where Orthodoxy went against Halacha. To say Slichos at 10 o'clock at night. That's the new spangled style, new style everywhere. It's not really, again, I understand all of Slichos is a minhag, I get it. But that's not the way it's supposed to be done. I'm guilty too, by the way. I'm not such a tzaddik. I also often go at night, but it's not really the proper way. And there is something, I mean, my father lost his father at the age of 9. But he said one of the things he remembers, remember he ever said that, one of the things he remembers as an 8-year-old, 7-year-old kid, his father would wake him up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning to say slichos. So we're a bunch of lazy bums, spoiled brats, and we're rich American Jews. What can I say? So we're not going to get up at 5 in the morning for 2 weeks to say slichos. Are you crazy? I mean, that's people are morning people. So convenience, everything's about convenience today. So it's very convenient to say slichos after. It's the same thing. This actually bothers me. I know, who cares? It's interesting what bothers me, what doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, but it bothers me that in Minhag Ashkenaz today, a lot of the shuls switched when they say Hoshanas on Sukkot. Minhag Ashkenaz says Hallel, Kriyas Torah, Musaf, Hoshanas. Minhag Sfard says Hallel, Hoshanas. Now, Hallel, Hoshanas is much more convenient because you have your lulav and etrog, so they just continue Hoshanas. Minhag Ashkenaz, I grew up and my father was a rabbi in a conservative shul, a traditional conservative shul. We did it twice. You put your lulav back down after Hallel, and an hour later, after laning and Musaf, then you did Hoshanas. Today, Minhag Ashkenaz, half the shul switched. Convenient. It's convenient. What do you mean convenient? Rabbi Soloveitchik goes, well, listen, what do you mean? That's a big difference. Why do we do Hoshanas? Is Hoshanas part of Hallel or is it part of Musaf? Well, it's a different understanding of what Hoshanas is. So people don't care. People just do so that's so this is another thing. Or it's not really halakhic, or I guess my favorite one. People talk in Orthodox shuls. That's very anti-halakhic. Many conservative and reform shuls are much quieter. That's I've always said, I'm going to get into. You can quote me on this one. This one you can quote me on. That okay. You have to stop me soon, but you can quote me on this one. That talking in shul is a worse avera than not having a mechitza in shul. It's more halachically appropriate to daven in a shul with mixed eating that is quiet than in a shul where people are noisy with a mechitza. There is no. I'm 1,000% convinced that is true, but that is the most unorthodox thing a Jew could ever do. The definition of orthodoxy is not to walk into a shul that doesn't have a mechitza. The definition, look what the Mishnah Berurah says about people who talk in shul. You won't go to shul. If you read what the Mishnah Berurah says about people going to shul, you're not going to go to shul anymore. I mean, that's Baruch Hashem. I must say, Baruch Hashem, today, there are many shuls that are really quiet. We've improved in this area. In my experience, I don't know, maybe, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I've been to many Orthodox shuls where it's still very noisy, and it's a big problem. And you all know that if they were sitting next to their wives, they would not be talking as much. And their wife wouldn't let them go to the Kiddush club in the middle of laning. It's a whole different world. But in Orthodoxy, you have to have a mechitza. So somehow in Orthodoxy, it doesn't bother people that they mumble and they talk in Chazar Shetz. The Rambam got rid of Chazar Shetz. in Musaf. Okay, I said enough because people were talking much. Okay, enough radical stuff. I don't think this is radical. I think this is basic halakha 101, but I don't know that everybody would agree with me. Okay, anyways, any questions, comments? Should we move on to Shema? Oh, so I said, I didn't get to the 8th and the 9th. We fast on the 8th and the 9th. Why is it a 3-day fast? So the 8th we fast because the Torah was translated into Greece. So it's just, I'm not going to go into it. You can find I've written a couple articles about that. I just think it's something to keep in mind that Torah translation's amazing. In the article, I wrote a whole article, if anybody read it, on the 100th anniversary of Daf Yomi, which is on Rosh Hashanah this year. I mentioned when I wrote my article, I wrote it a couple weeks, like I think after Sukkot even, I don't remember exactly, just now, like a couple months ago. And I was blown away. Why does nobody make a big deal that Rosh Hashanah 2023 or 5784 was 100 years since the Ger Rebbe opened up Masechet Brachot, right? Rav Meir Shapiro proposed his idea of Daf Yomi at a Gudda convention in Vienna, 1923, in August, the middle of August, about 3.5 weeks or so before Rosh Hashanah. And it really, my father always told me, if not for the Ger Rebbe, Daf Yomi would have never happened. But the Ger Rebbe was the most influential rabbi in Poland in the pre-war years. That's my understanding, even though many people were not strictly Ger Hasidim looked up. Apparently, the Ger Rebbe was the most influential rabbi, and the Ger Rebbe on Rosh Hashanah opened up according to Shema Barbit, and that got Daf Yomi off the ground. And it's 100 years, nobody made a big deal about it. So I wrote a article. It's amazing, and as like Daf Yomi, all the wonderful, beautiful things, and then I discussed some of the unintended consequences of Daf Yomi. But I mentioned that Daf Yomi really, I think anybody would agree, Daf Yomi really took off when Art Scroll. That was when Daf Yomi took off. Once Art Scroll published the Talmud in English, Daf Yomi went through the roof. Like in the 1980s, they had their siyum in the Felt Forum. Does the Felt Forum still exist? There was a side room in Madison Square Garden. I was never there, could hold 4,000 people, I was told. In the 1980s. Today, MetLife Stadium doesn't hold people. 92,000 people listen to NAP. So it's a whole different world. But, Talmud in translation, Rav Menashe Klein, the Mishnah Halachot, the Mishnah Halachot wrote a scathing attack on Art Scroll. I believe at the time nobody would do that today. Talmud in English is terrible. I can't have Talmud in English. It's ridiculous. Every translation is no translation can be perfect, and especially Talmud. If you don't know, break your head on the Talmud. If you don't know Talmud in English, go learn something else. Give me a break. So that's now obviously that's we look at all the positives, outweigh the negatives, but we should be aware of the negatives. We should be aware of the negatives. And the rabbis instituted a fast day when the Torah got translated into Greece. I teach and chat in English, and I much prefer teaching in English. And and kids, when we do the psukim and chumash, whatever, I'll do it in Hebrew and English. I'll show them in English. On the one hand, it's very tragic that the kids don't know Hebrew. Hebrew's gone out everywhere. It's not, obviously they know to some extent, varying kids. Some kids, there's a Hebrew tract that's chatted in English tract. But in grade 12, even the good kids, everything's in English. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But chat, Tova, how many kids were in your class at chat? In your grade? Do you have 50 kids in your grade or no?
Yeah.
50 kids in your grade.
More, 60.
60. So you had a big class. Today, there are 1,328 kids in the school. That's 400 kids, more than 400 kids, almost 400 kids a grade. By the grade 9s, they have over 400 kids and coming into the school. So the school is 6-7 times as big as it was. That's if they didn't offer Jewish studies in English, half the kids wouldn't be here. And they have a whole new stream program, which is amazing. They have 150 kids. I think there are 4 classes this year in the grade 9 alone. So like 100 kids. These are kids who didn't go to day school from grade 1 to 8 and are coming to, I think it's phenomenal. And these are kids, parents who, they went to public school for 8 years and now they're in a Jewish school. And they teach them Ivrit, but obviously they learn everything else in English. Okay, just be aware of the Torah in translation. There's something negative. We can 364 days we can celebrate. That's great. Torah is successful, but at least one day a year you have to fast. We have the Talmud in English and the Torah in English and Greek. Obviously, Greek. And the 9th of Tishrei, I'll just say one thing. Last year we discussed, Shner.
Wasn't that Ezra?
You're talking about
that's what some say Ezra died, but it's a very difficult reason. That the ninth yesterday because Ezra's Yortzeit in the new. So what? And whatever Moshe. I mean, right. That's a reason given. But if you also look, if you read Schneur Lyman's article, it'll show you that it's clear. Megillat Tanit, the source, it's clear. It's actually for sure not Ezra. The mission is that we fast on the ninth. We don't know why, and also on the ninth Ezra died. But that's not why we fast. That we did. But I love, and I just point this out. I think this is good for all of us. The Shulchan Aruch. This is like the most neglected, not the most, I can think of one or two more neglected. But I mean, this is in the Shulchan Aruch, Orach Chaim, Siman 580. What's that? Taf Kuf Pei. Yamim Shamitanim Behem, the days a Jew has to fast, besides the 6 fast. Eliamim Sheiru Behem Tzarot Lavotinu, bad things happen to our ancestors. And even though some are on Rosh Chodesh, Yesh Mi Shomer, some say you should still fast. And then he starts listing them off. The first of Nisan. Now, everybody knows we're not allowed to fast in Nisan. We fast in Nisan because that's when Nadav and Abihu died. On the 10th, we fast because Miriam died. It's interesting. I don't know how we know that Miriam died on the 10th. Benis Lekabir. On the 25th, Yoshua died. Over and over. Nobody fasts on these days. This is unheard of to fast. I don't even think it's a Midach Chasidut at all. I don't know if anybody has ever fasted on these days. I'm sure somebody did and has. Okay, then so he keeps going through. Here we go. But Kavchet Bekislev. Well, that's interesting. The middle of Hanukkah, we're fasting because Yehoiakim burned the Megillah. Amazing. Okay, that Baruch Berneri from Yirmiyah. B'Shmona B'Tevet. On the 8th of Tevet, that was on Wednesday. The Torah was written in Greek for the first time. B'mei Talmai Hamelach, Vayach Choshech Ba'olam. And darkness descended for 3 days. There was a solar eclipse for 3 days. 3 days of mourning in the world that the Torah has to be translated into Greece. Amazing. Betet, I love this. Betet no da ezit sarah sheirabo. We don't know why we're fasting. But if you're a Jew, you can assume bad things happened on the night of Tevet. I don't know what they are, but something bad happened. So therefore, we should fast. I think this is such a beautiful halakha. That's Schneur Lyman's article. What do you mean? It's ridiculous. Trying to figure out what this is. But I think there's something very humbling that we have a fast day. We don't have a clue why we're fasting. We just know something bad happened. It reminds me once Rav Schechter came into Shir once, and he told us, if I remember correctly, if somebody has a calendar of every Rebbe's Yortzeit, so you don't have to say Tachanun, we like to skip Tachanun. So it's the Rebbe's Yortzeit. So they have a calendar. And he said there are 4 days. They couldn't find a Yortzeit for 4 days. So Rav Schechter said, no, don't say Tachanun because we're happy nobody died. Every other day we don't say Tachanun because somebody died. Baruch Hashem, 4 days, nobody died. So we're not going to say Tachanun. Anyways, okay, that's the fast of the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. Okay, let's get to Shema, which is, 45 minutes after into the Shir. Let's get back. Okay, this is our transition Shir. Oh, Zeb, yes, what do you want to ask? Maybe we won't get to Shema.
Shabbos starts at sunset, right? You're not allowed to do any malacha.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. We're strict. That sunset may be the beginning.
Yeah, but don't we fast till the stars come out?
That's my question.
That's the question. That was the whole question.
When a fast day falls on Shabbos, it's always pushed away because we don't want to fast on Shabbos. So when a fast day falls on Shabbos, we except Yom Kippur. Right. So why in this, when we have a serve of tavis is just a minute, do we fast on Shabbos?
Well, so you're saying, so that's what I said. That's what Rabbi Lynch, that's what I was saying, that I think this is a good time to rely on those opinions that the fast ends at sunset. Rabbi Lynch was more strict. He wanted to wait like the Vilna Gaon, 20 minutes, or Vilna Gaon's really 13 and a half minutes. He wanted to extend 20. You can read the art. It's not so important, all the details. First, if you're asking me, I'm not going to do this, okay, in practice. But again, I'm not saying this is practical halacha, but in my understanding, the fast should end at Shkia. You should be making Kiddush. You should sing Shalom Aleichem. If Shkia is at 4:44 today in Toronto, I think.
Yes.
You should say Shalom Aleichem at 4:40 and Eshet Chayil at 4:41 and say Kiddush at 4:43 so you can drink the wine at 4:44. That's what I would do. But I'm who am I? Because it's Shkia. So according to the Ramban, even Tisha B'Av ends at Shkia. So a Asar B'Tevet on a Friday should end at Shkia. But but even if you're not, even if you want to be strict, so you want to strict Seder Kol Chavim, you don't have to be strict like we are on Shabbos. I told Rav Shachter went on a Monday on Som Gedalia. Was lenient after 20 minutes, good enough. So for sure on Friday Shabbos. But I'm saying the problem is all the shuas are going to finish davening because mincha is extra. They have laning and they're going to finish davening at 5:20 till people get home. It's 5:35 till late. It's 5:45. They're reading an hour after shkia. It's ridiculous. So whatever, ridiculous. I mean, so right, correct. I think it's inappropriate for a shul to end late after 5 o'clock. Yeah, if you're asking me, but nobody asked me. So, and I don't have my own shul. So, Baruch Hashem. So, good. This is where I can vent all my feelings. Thank you for that. Okay, let's get back to Shema just for a few minutes. The transition, like I said, this is Mitzvot in Exile. Asar B'Tevet is the beginning of the exile. I mean, the main why we didn't even discuss why we fast on Asar B'Tevet. They have all this other stuff. We fast because this is the day the Babylonians in 587 BC put a siege on Jerusalem. It was the beginning of the end. That's really what it is. The beginning of the end, Nebuchadnezzar, and this is the end, and the beginning of the end. That became a minhag to fast. That's like I say. Okay, okay. So 3 weeks ago, we had the 2-week break for Hanukkah. 3 weeks ago, we spoke on Vasavta de Ganecha, right? The debate between Rabbi Yishmael and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai seems to be quite difficult. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai says Vasavta de Ganecha is a curse. That's only if you're not doing the will of God. So, Nebuch, you got to gather your grain. But when things are going great, other people will do it for you. So we tried to explain, how can he say that? So he said the Torah is talking to the average person. It's a fascinating idea for the elite. Sort of, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai knows not everybody's going to be learning. So, but for the elite, it's a curse. And Rabbi shall say, no, it's normal. Be a normal person. Every normal person should work, and they learn. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, what's going to happen to Torah? And the Gemara concludes, Harbe Yasu Rabbi Yishmael V'al Tabi Yadam. Many people did like Rabbi Yishmael, they worked well. Torah Mada, Torah Derech Eretz, and they went to Daf Yomi with the English translation, without the English translation in the morning, and they learned at night, and Baruch Hashem, and they made a nice living, and everything went well. And Harbe Yasuk, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, a lot of people went to Kollel, expecting other people are going to support them, and it didn't work out. It's like the Gemara says. The Gemara in Kiddushin says that if you don't teach your child a trade, you teach him to be a thief, because how's he going to make a living? It's not good. And the commentaries do point out harbe. When a lot of people go to Kollel, it fails. A minority, that works. That's that. Yes, we do need. That's the answer. Rabbi said Torah Matela. What happened to Torah if everybody's working? You're right. Not everybody should work. 1/10 of 1% of the population should be in research, and they have to publish or perish. They should have tests and exams. Rav Shechter also told us. Remember that the Ponevezher Rav, the Rav Kahaneman. There are lots of interesting stories. He seems to be quite a fascinating person. The one who founded Ponevezher. He's a very different Ponevezher than today. But I assume so. In the early years, the people in the Kollel came complaining they don't pay them enough. Okay, they didn't have a lot of money. So he says, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll double your salary on condition you take a test every month. And they turned it down. And that's what Rav Shechter told us. I don't have any evidence. Rav Shechter did tell us, I remember, said that 90% of people, this is in the 80s, 90% of people in Kollel should be thrown out, and the other 10% should get 10 times as much money. And they could do the research and pay to, if they got 6 kids, you do real stock. You're not allowed to get paid for learning Torah. So how do you, especially for learning, teaching, also, but how do we pay them? So 1 hectare to pay them is you're not paying them. They need staka. I'm not paying them, but if a person has no means of support, you have to give them, staka. So how much staka do you have to give them? Depends. If they have 2 kids or 8 kids, you give them more money when they have 8 kids. For staka, you give them according to need. If you're paying them schar batal, all these other fancy heterim, there's nothing to do with it. You go to your boss, you had another kid, your law, I want to raise, he'll throw you out of there, you're out of your mind. But if you're paying a Torah because he could have been a lawyer. So also, I don't care how many kids you have. You could have been a lawyer. Why would you make a zort? That will pay him. But if you're paying him as staka, so because he has no means, so then you got to give him more money every time he has a kid. So that's what Rav Schachter proposed, have a very small people in Kollel. And everybody knows, the less people, when you have everybody, you lose the quality. The higher the quantity, the lower the quality. Everybody knows that. I mentioned, I've heard you, I'm sure you've heard me say it. Again, I don't have evidence, but I've heard from Yaakov Kamenetsky said when he was in Slobodka, there were 11 people in the Kollel and there were 500 people. I mean, I'm willing to take your job. It's like Lahavdil, you're in Major League Baseball. There are 5,000 players in the minors who are happy to take your job. You have a couple bad outings on the mound. You're out of here, man. You get benched, you're out and we'll get somebody else to do the job. If you don't produce, you're out of here. So that's the way it should be in learning. I want to sit and learn. I want to sit and learn too. That's very nice, but I gotta go to work anyway. So that's that. But that should be the second. So ma'at harbe yasu. That doesn't work. Ma'at. Okay. So let's just talk. It's getting late, of course. Just one thing, a little shema. So we're up to v'natati esa b'sadchal v'memtecha v'chalta b'savata. Right. I'll give bread in your natati esa b'sadchal. I'll give you. Bread, it'll be blessed. You follow the mitzvah, everything will be beautiful. So what does that pasuk tell us? So I'll just say two things very quickly. So first of all, that's a halacha thing I may mention. You have to feed your animals first. That's what our chachamim learned from this verse. To your animals, and then you should eat and be blessed. But the animals come first; they can't take care of themselves. You got to feed your cow and your dog and your cat before. I mean, probably they're the cow. I don't think it meant the dog and the cat, but for us, it may mean the dog. But people, they're sheep and their cattle. They had to feed. That's one thing. I think actually, I only thought of it this morning. Literally, as I was looking over the shear this morning, it hit me what I think the pshat in the pasuk. V'natati esev v'sadcha lememtecha. The grass is given to your animals. The grass is for the animals. V'achalta v'savata. And you'll eat other things. It's like two separate things. The animals will graze in the field, and you v'achalta v'savata, and you will eat. And the esav v'sadchal v'mtecha. I'll give esav. I don't have it in front of me. I assume there's an etnachta on the v'mtecha. If there is, that will prove my point. Is there an etnachta? I can take a quick look. But the esav v'sadchal v'mtecha. And then you eat. Now, let me just leave with the question, what happened to ubeirachta? Yeah, there is an etnachta, which means there's a pause. Pause. I'll give grass to your cattle, they can graze. Cause, then you'll eat. So I always sort of read it as like one thing. I'll give grass and food to your animals and to you. Like your animals first and then you. That's true on one level, but anyways, why doesn't it say ubeirachta?
Where do you want it to say it?
Avachalta v'savata ubeirachta. What is being stressed here is
that's what we say.
What's being stressed here is the bracha from Hashem to us.
Excellent. That's what the comment is. That answers Aitzah. Very good. It says v'chalta v'savata ubeirachta is in Parshat Ekev. What we have to do. This is telling what God's going to do. If you listen to Mitzvot, I will give you food for your cattle and food for you. I'm not telling you what to do. Then, okay, Hishamru Lachem. Then the Torah says, be very careful. You better keep this. Otherwise, you're in trouble. But this is talking about God, what God's going to do for us. So it's like God doesn't have to bless. We're going to bless. So that's what it means. Okay. We did a little Shema. So we spent a lot of time talking about why you should end the fast early today and the different levels of fast and how it changes based on historical circumstances. We have biblical fast, then we have the Yom Kippur, that's the only one. Then we have, of course, the 4 fasts for mourning, and there are days are only a minhag, except Tisha B'Av, which is a rabbinic law, and then we have even lower, Tani Esther, which is not related, of course, to the Beit HaMikdash or anything like that. And we assume that in a time where it's not Geula, we're not redeemed, we're not quite what people may have thought in 1967, that we don't have to fast at all. Like Zechariah says, they will be holidays, Sason v'Simcha. Rav Soloveitchik said that will only be in Yemot HaMashiach. Because the verse then continues, some are Revi, some are Chamishi, some are Shri, you will Sason and Simcha, Amet v'Shalom Ahovo. You will love peace and truth. And we know peace and truth are contradictory, right? You have too much peace, you have to compromise, which is it's good. We can lie for peace. I'm not against that. That's good. But peace and truth are contradictory. Some people are really into truth. It's hard for them to get along with people. So only in the Messianic era will peace and truth be reconciled. I don't know what that means exactly, but that's how I think Rav Chaim Soloveitchik explained it. Anyway, so we still fast. And the question is, how long a day? And it relates on a few levels. One is Shabbos, does the day end at Shkia? And even if what we assume it doesn't, we're strict generally. Well, what is the definition of Seit HaKochavim? What it would be, and maybe in general, you can be lenient on rabbinic laws, especially on custom, especially more so when it's on a Friday. That was basically, we just elaborated on that. Rabbeinu Tam is not just strict; he's lenient. It depends. On Friday, he's lenient. On Saturday, he's strict. Anyways, and then just to get the Shema. So please God, next week we'll really get back into the second paragraph of Shema. Let me see if there's any questions here. You prefer the four seasons of the Northeast. Me too. Florida's boring. Yeah, when they do Florida's overrated, they're here, right? That's right. The weather is geschmack. Okay, that's people are into Florida. I see. Is it the only fast you charge Yom Kippur? No. So sorry. That's what I said before. The Abu Draham claims that if a certain it would fall on Shabbos, we would fast, but most halakhic authorities say that's not correct. And as great as his paper on the Siddur, we don't consider the Abu Dharam to be a halakhic authority, but we'll find out when we reestablish we won't find out, because when we reestablish the calendar based on witnesses, we can cancel a Sar B'Tevet. We'll have that's name. So we'll never find out if that was right. Okay, from ChatGPT, members of the Brisker yeshivas, like other Orthodox Jews, observe a Sar B'Tevet as a minor fast day. In this day, from sunrise to sunset, fasting is practiced to commemorate the siege of Jerusalem and the day of repentance and reflection. There's no specific mention of Brisker yeshiva having a unique practice. I think Chachi on the women. In Orthodox Jews, both men and women are encouraged. I mean, this is all true in theory, although there are certain exemptions. Yeah, this in practice, GPT got it wrong. There's limits to artificial intelligence. Go into Borough Park and see how many women are fasting. I know we pick on them. They have other things to do. Somehow, whatever heter they based on, they don't fast. The Rav Chaim Briskers, and the Brisker women don't fast either. I mean, in St. Louis, there's a shul who has made a big campaign against talking to shul. Yeah, it's Baruch Hashem, it's happening, because that's a bigger problem than not having a mechitza, but obviously that's not an Orthodox view, that's just a halachic view. Reflecting on my husband's comment from Russia about the hour difference in fasting time, I'm struck by a broader contemplation on the soul's role in such ritual. Not merely about enduring another hour of hunger. Fasting is a door to inner contemplation. That is correct. We are supposed to contemplate what we're doing for sure, and that's why we fast, not to fast. Fasting is just the mechanics, like the Maseh HaMitzvah, the Kiyum HaMitzvah, the fulfillment of the mitzvah is doing tshuva, as the Rambam writes. I didn't put that Rambam in the beginning of Hilchot Tani. You have to examine our ways, do tshuva for sure. That's why we fast. Maybe I should have emphasized more. Thank you. The strict inherited time frame isn't about testing resilience, but still, you are correct, 100%. That being said, we don't want to extend the fast longer than we have to do, especially on Shabbos. Okay. Thank you, Janine. Okay. Maybe who knows when. Okay. All right, everybody. I got to go.
Rabbi Kelman?
Rabbi.
Yes.
My father remembers.
Winter break. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my father remembers Rabbi Gorelik saying emphatically that in Brisk the women didn't fast.
Of course not. Everybody knows that. Of course they didn't fast.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, by the way,
that GPS got it wrong. GPT.
You said something before about being Mekel and Machmer. Sometimes what's Mekel is Machmer and what's Machmer. There's a famous thing quoted by the Rav, I believe, with fasting in Yom Kippur, that someone, once came to him a shaila about fasting Yom Kippur because of health reasons. So the Rav was very Mekel on that. And someone says, how could you be so makel? Said, no, I'm not being makel on Yom Kippur, I'm being machmer on Pikuach Nefesh.
Correct. That's the line they use. Right. I'm machmer on Pikuach Nefesh. Okay, I'm sorry. I do have to go. I still have to teach. So please, God, we'll see you next week. I will be on vacation. I mean, whatever. So I'll be home so I can have more time to answer questions. But Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Our Monday,
you very much.
of course, December 25th, fascinating
Thank
program.
you.
On Monday, December 25th, on Christmas Day in Yan the Yom, all kinds of fascinating talks, and I think a great group of 7 speakers, and Rabbi Liebtag on Sunday morning, of course. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.